G'day guys, so I've got a shiny new camera and I thought I might use it as a bit of an excuse to do a little bit of a walk around the system and show you how everything's running at the moment. The fish are quite happy, I just feed them and they're growing. I've got my little dickhead fish that I give a little pat when he comes up to. I might show you that right now. So yeah, the fish side of things is quite easy. They just pretty much look after themselves. You feed them. I do test every now and again, but it never shows anything particularly different. So I thought I'd show you some of the plants. So this one here is one that I'm actually quite happy with. This is a dragon fruit. Little spiky little nods on it. And I had this in here for about a year and it did nothing. I was quite sad about that. But when it started warming up a little bit, it seems to have taken off. So it's a climbing cactus, which I thought was quite weird. But when these ones come to, it does come to fruit hopefully, they'll put out nice big flowers and out of them will come an awesome dragon fruit. And if you haven't tried it, it's something I'd recommend. And as you can see, I've got lots of tomatoes here. I love my tomatoes and I love the different sorts of it, so I thought I'd show you a couple different varieties that I've got growing. One thing I'll note, I picked a whole lot of them last weekend, so I don't have a massive fruits that are growing, but I'll show you what I've got. So this yellowy fruit here is Kellogg's breakfast tomato, and it is incredible. It is a very, very tasty tomato, and I quite like it. And this dark tomato here is a black cherry tomato, and it is incredibly tasty. And if you haven't got seeds, I'd recommend you can either hit me up for some or have a look for some on eBay, because they are incredible, and I'd really recommend getting your hands on some of them. And these little yellow guys are broad ripple tomatoes, and they are very, very tasty. Very sweet, and they grow like a weed. They just grow incredibly, and I'm very, very happy with it. Okay, I'm sure some of you recognize these, but these are Roma tomatoes. And they are a determinate bush tomato, and they grow really, really well. And they are very, very good source tomatoes. They should all ripen up at once, which this one is doing something weird with, and you get masses of fruit all in one go. And they are really good for a sauce tomato because they just have a lot of fruit, and a lot of flesh, and not as much seeds inside of them. Okay, so these funky little guys are pear cherry tomatoes, and they are very, very tasty. They're a nice one, and they grow like a weed as well, which I'm quite happy with. Okay, so this is a little bit of a curse and a good thing. The tomatoes are growing very, very tall. The cage that I've got around here is about 1.5 meters, and the plants have got into it in no time at all. So, what I've got to do is unclip some of these, and then let them drop down. So I take off a couple of clips that are holding them up. There aren't too many, there's about 3 here. I could also untie it from the top and let it fall down that way, but I won't do that just yet. So it'll give you an idea about the length of this tomato plant. And it just goes down and down and down. But it is growing quite well, and I'm getting quite a lot of fruit off it. I know I need to do a little bit of sucker maintenance here, but when it does, I let them hang around, and I let the stem of the tomato just pretty much hang and drop down the side. So the top of it will keep on growing up and it won't take up as much room inside of it. So I'll do that and then I'll re-clip it up. And I'll put another one there, just to be sure. I did a clip on these little tomato clips and it is right, let's say there. And they'll show you what I've done with it and how the cage and everything works if you're interested. Okay, so these are some of my cucumbers. They are producing a lot of cucumbers, which is good because we eat a lot of them. But I've had a little bit of an aphid problem in some of these. They are going nuts over it and the ants keep on bringing them and they keep on depositing them. So I've been attacking them with 2 fronts. I get ant rid, which is... So to knock the aphids on the head, I go 2 different ways. The first is I got to get rid of the ants first. If you don't get rid of the ants, the aphids will just keep on coming back and coming back and coming back. So I use this stuff. It's called ant rid. And basically what it does is you squirt it on the bed near it, not in the actual system itself, but around the system, and the ants will come and they'll start chewing it up and they'll eat it and they'll take it back to the nest and they should kill off all the ants inside of it, which is what I've done. And I cannot see very, very many ants. There's 1 or 2 that are still hanging around, but most of them are gone. And then the next thing I've got to do is deal with the aphids themselves, which have made this plant not particularly happy at all. So I'll spray them with the eco oil, and then that should knock the aphids themselves on the head. And so far it seems to be working. The plants are bouncing back quite well after it, and I haven't seen any more aphids on it, just the dead ones that are on there. But I'll show you some of the cucumbers. So the speed that cucumbers grow is just incredible. I really can't, it's just awesome. That one in about 2 or 3 days time will almost double in size, which is something that I cannot believe, but I watch it happen and it is awesome. And here's some more, and some more, and some more that I got sitting in the DWC bed. Okay, so my DWC bed at the moment is not looking fantastic. I think it's still recovering after the goldfish in there kept on eating all the roots of the plants, which was quite annoying, but I've got most of them out of there, I hope. I took about 13 or 14 goldfish out of the DWC system, which I made a video about, let's say there. And plants seem to be growing back. I pulled out some of the ones that were dying and I've replaced them. So you can see in here, I put in a whole lot of snow peas. So these are still quite young and not very big. I've taken them out of my seeding bed, which I made there, and they just seem to be growing up quite well, and the peas really love the DWC bed, more than anything else that I've had in there. I've got tomatoes, which I'll show you. So I've got tomatoes in there, but they're just not thriving as they do in the other gravel beds. I'm not quite sure why, but they are just not as happy in there. You got some bits that are growing quite well, but others not so much. And here I have some kale. I was curious about kale. I'm a chef, but it's not something we really did very much of in the kitchens apart from decoration. But I took some and I tried it, and bleh, it's horrible stuff. But each of their own. If you love it, then awesome. So this bed I've just harvested a lot of stuff out of as well. So I had a whole lot of corn in here and it's growing quite well, and I pulled them all out, and I've got basil, which is starting to go to seed on me. I've got some rhubarb, which looks like it's showing a little bit of deficiencies, but I will add some stuff to it. A bit more rhubarb, and a passion fruit. So this passion fruit is growing quite well. I've tried it in here before and it didn't do very well, but it seems to be coming back. So now I've got to figure out what I'm going to put in this bed now. Okay, so this bed, pretty much everything seems to have gone to seed, which is quite annoying. I'm guessing again from the weather changes and the goldfish, but everything seems to have gone to seed. The basil you can see behind me is sending out flowers everywhere, and these guys are all sending out... Okay, so these lettuce are starting to put out lots of flowers and lots of everything, and they seem to be growing quite well still. So I'm letting them go to seed so I can collect all the seeds, and I'm planning on doing a little video on how to collect lettuce seeds and show you the different ways of separating them and that sort of stuff. But I've got some celery in here, which grows really well inside the system, and strawberries. Strawberries are very nice and growing quite well, but none have made it to the house so far because they are just way too nice. Okay, so this is my continual harvest lettuce bed, but as you can see, the plants are getting quite big inside of it. They've gotten a bit too big and they basically shot up. So that's another video I'm going to do. I'm going to wait for them all to go to seed, and then I'm going to start collecting seeds out of it. Okay, so I've been a little bit lazy with this bed. I planned on having it originally as a banana bed, so I wanted the bananas in here to grow really nice and tall so I'd be able to harvest them out of it. But plants don't always go according to plan, really. So I've got a couple of bananas in here that are still growing, but they just don't seem to be growing very well. I had a big one which got up to about there, but then the leaves around it started rotting and dropping off, and it just did not really work. So I'll let them grow. If they grow, they grow. If they don't, they don't. But I think I'm in the wrong sort of climate for it. I think they want a little bit more humidity and a little bit more constant heat. In winter, I think it just knocks them around a little bit too much. We don't really get any frosts here, but it's still a little bit too cold. And another one I'm quite happy with is the pineapple. I had it in there for about 6 months to a year and it did nothing, but it seems to be getting bigger. So hopefully I'll get some fruit out of it. But yeah, that's my little run around the system at the moment. Thanks for watching, and I'll do another video later if anybody's interested. Thanks.